What's the password again?
All right, good evening. Let's see, this is a special MSAD11 Policy Committee meeting. Let's see, it's 5 o'clock on November 8th. We didn't meet on last week prior to the board meeting as usual due to the board rearranging the schedule to attend a student event. So that's why we're here tonight for this meeting. So we'll open the meeting, do quick introductions. I'm Tony V. Gardner. Tony V. Chair.
Molly Rogers.
Jack Bitteroff.
Matt Bridge.
All right. And let's see. I actually lost track a little bit of where we left off from the original agenda.
So the first policy for us to review tonight is BDA, which is Board Organizational Meeting. So the only change that I made to that policy, there were a couple minor ones. I changed his, her to their. That educational plan, that no longer really exists in the way it was intended. We now are moving toward our new strategic plan. So until that is thoroughly fleshed out and determined how we're going to provide oversight, there's no need to have the educational plan. There was a legal reference that I added, and we do not have BDF, Board Advisory Committee, so I deleted that.
Looks good to me. Anybody else? Cool.
Great. BDE, Board Standing Committee. So this particular committee, or this particular policy, I didn't spend a lot of time reviewing, I'll be honest. I mean, we had reviewed it probably four times over the last few years. And we have Jack, who spent some time reviewing it. Fortunately, there was an error in here I can't believe we didn't even catch. Biennial versus biennial. I mean, that is such an obvious error. No one caught it. I didn't even know this. I just read over it. So I have in front of you all of the handwritten proposed changes. I thought it was easier just to make a copy for everyone. So maybe we can just kind of go through this. I think the first one, first section, where it says the board establishes such standing committees as it deems. He recommends changing it to considers. Couple places we have shall, recommending it change to must. And we have down here freedom of access law, and it's Freedom of Access Act. So it's making that modification. There are some other changes with shall be, will be, biennial, as I mentioned. Then getting down into like D, I think, here's a bigger question. So it says that the school board chair will select the chair biennially after the board's organizational meeting or as needed. I don't think that is all that clear. It is that the board chair does select each standing committee chair. So
Yeah.
maybe you add that, so
Yeah.
the board chair will select each standing committee chair. And then leave the rest of the sentence as is. I think that clarifies. Then when you get into E, the board chair and the superintendent are ex officio non-voting members of all standing committees. But then the question that Jack raised, which is a great one, actually refers back to, reflects to K, and there's a conflict with K, because in K, it does say if there's not a quorum, then the chair or the
Mhm.
vice chair may act as a voting member. We have that happen.
Mhm.
We've had Becky serve as, and that's a common practice, that pretty typical. So the question in my mind would be, how do we modify E so it's not in conflict with K? I didn't know if maybe we could just simply say that the board chair and the superintendent are ex officio non-voting members of all standing committees, except in instances when there is not a quorum. And if you do that there, then you're not in conflict with K.
Yep.
Is it as simple as that?
I think so. You can draw attention to K if you wanted to.
See paragraph K.
Right, or except as provided in paragraph K.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, that sounds nice.
Or do we just make K the new F and bump everything
Yeah.
down?
Right, put it right after, or can we move it around like that?
Sure.
Um,
There, when I went to Maine School Management to see if they had a template,
No,
they
Oh.
do not.
huh,
So I
Thanks
think you
for
have a
checking.
lot of flexibility
Oh,
with this
yeah.
particular policy.
thanks for checking.
So if you'd like to make it F, I think you still.
Still need to phrase it,
Add the language.
yeah.
Correct. Except as provided in paragraph F,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
We'll make this move to F.
Yep,
How many require a quorum?
A quorum, your standing committees generally are 5, so a quorum is 3.
So when, you're saying it happens frequently that someone need, that you
No,
were.
it happens occasionally, like at the last policy committee meeting, we had 2 people here. So Becky came over so that we would have a quorum, so that we could conduct a policy committee meeting.
Okay.
And so she will do that from time to time. I wouldn't say it's frequent.
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, it says the quorum is 3, either for 5 or 6 member subcommittee or standing committees.
And we've gotten away from 6. It's just it's too much.
Yeah, Loads.
It means that some board members have to be on 3, 4 committees, and it's too much. So
Yeah.
we've tried to limit it to 5. And a quorum, figure you have 12 board members. So if you have 6, you have half of the board present. So you're almost at a quorum of the board. So it's just
Oh, yeah,
cleaner to stick with
right.
5.
that's a good reason to not have 6, yeah.
Yeah.
What are you thinking, Molly?
I think the language that we're proposing makes sense, but it also just seems like we're saying they're not voting members, but they're voting members when we need them to be voting members.
Correct. Generally, they're not voting members, but yes,
Yeah. It just.
due
seems
to a
more
quorum
difficult
of
a little bit.
Right, but if we don't have that, then we don't have quorum, we can't conduct any business.
Right.
it's a common practice.
Okay.
When I say common, it
fill.
doesn't
Right.
happen
But it's
frequently.
a common way of
But-
handling
Yes,
infrequent events.
yes. Any school district that I've worked for, that has been the practice.
Okay.
Not to beat a dead horse on letter E, because you never vote on anything, Pat.
Correct.
So,
I am not a
should
member
we-
of the
no,
board,
so
so
we
I
should just
cannot
remove-
vote.
Just remove superintendent from E, because it says board chair and superintendent.
That's up to you. I mean, to make it clear to the public that I'm not a voting member, because I'm always sitting up here with
Yes,
you. So
for
people may
everything.
assume that I have the right to vote.
Mhm.
But keeping it in just is clear that I don't, but that's your decision.
It doesn't, the exception doesn't say anything about.
Because K.
Yeah,
there's no
and that's what I'm
effect.
saying,
No.
since the exception does, well, no, it's fine. It's happy to glad, but yes.
And,
And it's semantics of who reads things differently, so.
right,
Yeah.
and now that I'm reading it again, it would be Becky or Tony would be able to sit in, if Tony weren't a member of this committee, you know,
Yeah.
he would, chair or vice chair would.
Could serve
could serve
as under K.
Under K, it says that, it doesn't say that in E, does the vice chair, should the vice chair be added to E?
The vice chair
Generally-
normally has a vote, don't they? It's only when the vice chair is acting as chair that they are expected to abstain?
Correct. If you may be the vice chair, but you can't go to just any
Oh.
meeting
Right, I'm
and
not,
vote.
yeah,
Though only if needed.
If the chair's not available,
yeah,
then yes, you can fill in that capacity if the policy allows you to do so, which it does.
it,
So what we needed to say is,
yes.
if there is not a quorum, the
Oh.
chair or the vice chair acting as chair may act as a voting member.
Yes, if acting as chair, yeah, when, like, because the vice chair can only do that if filling in as the chair, right, yeah.
Okay, I'll add that,
Yeah.
if acting as chair, yeah,
Yeah.
that provides the clarity.
Hmm. Cool.
Other questions?
The answer's all mine.
That's good.
Sorry, I went on a deep dive on one and didn't manage to do any of the others.
Yeah,
That's okay.
That means
I think, as I
we've done
said,
due
this is
diligence.
a policy that is not required. It's
Hmm.
the template's not provided. I think most of the other policies, they're just plucked. And while we find things occasionally, I don't think you're gonna find anything to this extent.
Mhm.
Okay,
Because there's another legal reference here too. Good catch.
Yeah.
Number 6, MLS.
So I don't- 26 is the labor, something to do with the labor.
yeah, normally we don't, I don't think normally we include 26.
Municipal Public Employees Labor Relations Law. That's what it cites.
But we're not, where did it cite that? Because we're not municipal.
Third paragraph. Open to the public except as provided by, so that would be having to do with when we meet in executive session to discuss
Yeah.
employment stuff.
Oh.
Or contract stuff, I guess.
And I'm sorry, tell me where that was. You said 3? What is 3?
From the
Third
in-
The
paragraph.
third
Intro.
paragraph from the top of the page.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Oh.
Then we're good to go. I will.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. All right, so BDER. There were a couple things here. That Jack included in an email. I gave you a copy of that. We caught the period, that was obvious oversight. So the presence of a majority of the members of the standing committees shall constitute a quorum. So if you have 5, then you have the majority, which is 3.
Sorry, where?
There was a question in the
Oh.
email that
Oh,
I
yeah.
shared with you. It says paragraph F says the
Yeah.
majority
Yeah.
is quorum for voting
Yeah.
purposes. Is that different from or in conflict with BDE, which says a quorum for the committee is 3? I don't think it's in conflict.
No. No, it's just said differently.
Yep.
Glad to have you.
And then we have another freedom of access law versus act that
Oh,
needs
yeah.
to be
Yeah,
changed.
yeah, that sounds good.
Anything else from that particular policy? If not, we'll move on.
Yeah.
And some of these, just as a reminder, the work that I did on these policies, they were done in September. So if it takes me a moment to remember why there was a change, I hope you will understand.
We'll let the 2-month lag catch up.
Yeah. All right. So BE, are we set it to go to BE?
BBER, the packet from,
That's what we just talked
oh,
about.
that was R or?
That was BDER. So
Okay.
we'll add a period. There was a question about the quorum and under paragraph
we go.
F
There we
and
go,
then act.
Do you want to put the and in? Under finance and facilities in the last sentence. The Finance and
Okay,
Facilities Committee shall be responsible for the development of a facilities plan to annually review the plan.
Okay, just a second. Are you back on R?
Yes.
Okay, so sorry, I'd already moved past that. So can you repeat where you are?
At the top of the policy, under finance and facilities,
Mhm.
the first paragraph, the last sentence, just before the end of it, annually review the plan. I think there's supposed to be an and.
Finance and Facilities Committee shall be responsible for the development of a facilities plan
And.
and to annually review the plan. Yeah.
Actually, I did have one other thing on this one. Or. On, sorry.
1 second. Okay, I'm good.
Okay, yeah, on the curriculum section of BDER. One of the things that happens in curriculum committee is that policy review occurs and recommendations may come to policy and then to the board, I think.
Yeah.
Should we, is that included under other, such other duties as assigned? Or do we want to write that in for just to be mindful where curriculum is? That committee's assessing policy and making recommendations to bring to policy, to bring to the board. Do we want to clarify that process?
I guess that's up to you. As I read, all matters pertaining to future educational programming needs are referred to the committee, and that your primary responsibility for assessing the board priority goals and objectives related to curriculum, student assessment, reporting, teaching, and learning the policies that you review are all related to that,
Incorrect.
right? So it's all, the reason you're even looking at the policy
Is
is
because
because
yeah,
of the responsibility assigned to the curriculum committee. So I don't know that you need to single out policy. You're just doing your policy as a part of your work. As a board, if you feel like it's important to identify that that includes occasionally policy review as it relates to curriculum, that's up to you guys.
I'm good to kind of leave it under, that obviously it's curriculum specific policy that would get reviewed, and then it sort of fits under, the other duties piece. Cool, I just wanted to.
Yeah, that's
Sure.
entirely if you feel like
Yeah.
it needs to be pulled out, but I think it relates to what's already written
In
here.
the first paragraph there, okay, yep, cool.
All right, then BE. All right. I just got heavy-handed with the number of MSAD11s. I didn't make any other changes.
I would actually make one here, which is, so under special meetings, so it says regular meetings and special meetings. The first sentence under special meetings says, a meeting of the board is a meeting that is held to address important matters. I think it should read a special meeting. Does that make sense? With the, because a meeting, well, a meeting is a meeting is one thing, but it's, right, we're trying to define the special meeting and,
Following paragraph begins that way.
yeah,
Correct. Yeah,
so
you can find it later on, yep. That makes sense to me.
I think that was, oh,
Oh. Okay.
I had a question on the cross-reference too. Like, do we have a remote or video policy like for a cross-reference? Or I know we'd worked that in
Yes.
so that the special meetings are Zoomable, right?
Well,
In,
all meetings are live streamed.
oh, yes,
So I don't know what you mean by Zoomable. Members of the public cannot join
oh, right,
unless an emergency meeting, unless
That's
there's
what
an
I'm thinking of.
emergency reason that a reason that Becky deems as an emergency that allows us to meet via Zoom. And if we do that, then members of the public have to have the right
yeah,
to be able to also log into the Zoom
to
meeting.
that,
So that policy you'd like to have cross-referenced?
yeah.
All right, I'll have to research it. I don't remember the code, but I can easily do that. Okay. Yeah, that's an easy one. Okay, are we set? If so, the next one, BEDL, is the 9:30 adjournment that we all love.
Yeah, which we approach with frightening regularity. Should we change the adjourned to by 9:30 or before? Just is specific, but
Change that.
sort of locks us into 9:30.
I thought that was the purpose of it.
Well, that we,
That
But by 9:30, meaning that you have to adjourn by 9:30
Not
versus
later than.
at 9:30. Okay, anything else on that one? Okay, BG. I don't see where I made a single change. Anyone have any recommended changes?
There's a little bit of a language thing in, let's see. There's the indented paragraph near the top and then the paragraph right after that. The board's policies are framed and meant to be interpreted. The last sentence there, the board's policies are also intended to reflect the board's educational philosophy and instructional objectives and practices and procedures. I wonder if we might take out the middle and do comma as well as. So it would read philosophy and instructional objectives, comma, as well as practices and procedures. In the sense that that was just a lot of ands for me.
Right, so ed policy, comma, instructional objectives,
Comma, as well as.
as well as practices and procedures.
I read them for flow,
Yeah,
not in my old grammar days.
Yep. We can do that. Anything else?
that was it.
Okay. All right, BGR. The policy adoption procedure.
Just added in on D there.
Yeah. The superintendent shall be responsible for making new and revised policies. Yes.
Yeah.
I found that update, if I recall, I found that update in main school management. So as I did the comparison,
Nice.
that was a piece we were missing.
Yeah,
That's good.
thank you. Yep.
Then CHA.
Did you scratch out the? If they believe. You gotta change the
They
language.
believe where, are you on CHA?
CHA, you made the
Yes, if they
change.
believe versus believes. I missed the S. Let's see, CHA. Yes. Believe. Okay. Anything else?
Good.
All right, then security camera, ECAD-R. See, there's a few changes here, or just one. You reviewed this policy, correct? Correct.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Then EEAB-R. All right, this is do I have the right form? EEAB-R. Maybe this is a new one. Trying to remember again. I apologize. What I have in my notes is that we're trying to rescind the student athlete transportation in a van. meaning that one of our employees, a coach, someone would be transporting a student in a van. I'm trying to eliminate that form because we do that all electronically now, that every time we have a staff member who needs to transport, we have an electronic system in which they have to submit a request. We do a background check, for driving records, we get their insurance. If they're driving their own vehicle, we get a copy of their license. And so there's no need to have in policy a form. We have the mechanism, we have the system in place. Here, this is for a student athlete to be transported in a private vehicle. That's what it is. It's all coming back to me. It's the same thing, all right? Whether it's a van or whether it is a personal vehicle, we have a mechanism system in place where the approval process has to happen before any of this can happen, before this can occur, which includes parental permission, right? So we just don't need to have a form in policy any longer. We have it taken care of.
So rather than the form and policy, should it be a description of the procedure?
I don't think it's necessary at all. It's just a procedure. I don't know that it requires board policy on it.
Yeah, what do we lose if so are we talking about rescinding this?
I'm saying rescinding it because everything that you already have, I mean, you don't currently have a policy that says it will happen. It just automatically happens. You just have a form, which makes
We're
no,
enforcing the form because we were using a different mechanism.
we're using a different mechanism, but all of this information is in that, right?
Right,
We're doing it. So there's just to have a form. When you have forms in the policy, it makes it really difficult to update and make forms current, right?
Yeah.
And make them applicable. Little things change. And so I'm just saying, we don't need the form anymore. But we are following through and doing this. Of course, we would never,
Just,
Right.
yeah.
Did
Hand someone
anything
the keys
ever
or whatever.
refer to the form?
no, there's no policy that refers
We
to the
just
form.
created a form and put it in the policy manual.
I don't know, Molly. I can't answer that question.
No, in 2019, I mean, that's when it was adopted, so we created a form, but we didn't.
I don't even remember. There must have been a reason, something that prompted us to do that. But I can't tell you what it was. And it is managed behind the scenes. So it's in our frontline system. I don't know, you guys aren't familiar with the frontline system. Our frontline, it's called Frontline, and it's a system that we use to request substitutes, to onboard all of our new employees. For any contract that we issue, it's done through that. Anyone who applies for a job, the application, there is a component for that. It is very comprehensive, and we use it for as much as we possibly can, and this is included. So if you're gonna drive, you have to fill out one of these forms, it goes through the office up there, and it comes to me. And you can't drive until I approve it. And it's every time, right? So it's not like you can fill it out once at the beginning of the year and you're good for the rest of the year. Now, you might be good for a season, or if there are different reasons why you're driving, then you have to fill one out every single time. Yeah.
And it's just where's that rule listed? That you have to do it?
For onboarding. for
There, I don't know that there's a rule,
For driving,
and there is no rule.
like if someone doesn't ask, do they?
If someone isn't asked, what? It's a practice, it's a
Right.
best practice. And we have lots of practices that are best practice that are not all defined in policy.
Okay.
So we just reviewed a policy here, CHA, that says in the absence, right, of a policy, I am required and I have the authority to develop administrative procedures. This basically is an administrative procedure.
Okay.
So,
Right, it's specific, yeah.
There you go.
Um,
So does that make sense?
Yeah,
Okay. All right. So are you all right if we rescind it?
Mhm.
yeah,
All right, then we have EEAC, school bus scheduling and routing. Again, just a couple minor changes. The schedule, the routes are not sent to me. I mean, I am not gonna have any clue as to whether a bus route is appropriate or not. And the stops are appropriate or not. That is the responsibility of the director of
You know so-
operations. maintenance.
so much, and
Yeah, so to
Yep.
say that it's submitted to me to review, yeah, that's just not it's not in practice right now. Gabe does it, and we of course have software that helps him to do that.
Yeah.
That's okay?
it's good to me.
All right. The next is menu development. Offer versus serve. I had Linda look at this. She consulted with her people and said this was fine. There is another food service, child nutrition policy that I need to bring to you. But I know it needs to be modified and I'm just not quite certain how to go about modifying it yet. And that is the free and reduced meals and the law around that, because we're not providing the reduced meals anymore. The state is paying for all of these free and reduced
Right.
meals. So I inquired whether the policy was obsolete and whether we needed to just rescind it, and I was told no, that we need to keep it on file. But as it's written, doesn't really make sense. So just so you know, I still have work to do around that.
Well, they're hedging their bets. The new administration might change their mind. Can't afford it anymore.
Maybe, but you know, who knows?
Do
We have this new gambling law that just went into effect that's gonna be making the state a lot of money.
Tons of
so
money.
Maybe we'll use that.
Always gets used for good.
Do we have the option to like table it for a while or like make it inactive? Like, let's put them like this policy, like there'd be a 2-year moratorium on it or something.
We, as part of our practice, review policies every 5 years-ish. There are some policies that, for whatever reason, they don't get reviewed, or it's an 8-year process for lots of reasons. Like what, right now, we have class size policy that needs to be reviewed, and the last time it was reviewed was 15. So, yeah, we can just not take any action on it and just have it sit there. That's fine. I just don't want to get too many of our policies out of cycle, because then we have those years where we have 100 policies to review versus other years where we might have 40 or 50. And so it becomes a management thing. On this particular policy, any questions? No, we're all set? Okay. FA is your facilities development. One minor change, but I didn't have anything here.
Yeah, good.
All set? Okay. FB, facilities planning. Again, I didn't make any changes.
Cool.
All right, then you will see, if we move to FFA, I have 2 policies. I went into Main School Management, pulled up their FFA to see how it compared to our FFA. And you will see that they're different policies, right?
Yeah.
They're not even the same thing. So I included both here because I feel like they both have value. That the first one is around memorials, and we have certainly been asked in the past to name buildings or name pieces of the property, for memorials. And so I thought it would be appropriate to, for you to consider maybe adding a policy, while at the same time, our policy is slightly different. And I really felt that it covered two very different and distinct needs. I don't know, what did you guys think when you read through them?
And looking at, I don't think I picked up that they were the same policy,
At
code.
all, right?
right?
Because they look so
And-
different.
Yeah, and so. Because, I think you're right, it does make sense to recognize the, value, the validity of both of these approaches.
Yeah, and one, right, the first one is more, there's scholarship funds, right?
Mhm.
We get that,
Yeah,
we definitely get requests for that. And so it would be good to know how to manage them
yeah,
in a consistent way.
well, so I guess what are you thinking? What are we looking for here? Do we wanna create an FFA and an FFA? Or FFA one, FFA two,
Right,
or,
right,
yeah,
right.
okay. Yeah, how'd they end up with the same, file name?
I think it easily could have been that the suggested MSMA policy, we kind of more.
Maybe it,
you know,
grew
and then
into
they,
the dedication piece,
Yeah.
yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, things change over time, and our policy, if you, the bottom,
yeah, oh, totally, yeah,
yeah,
um,
Question in our policy, the edit to remove the MSAD11 community.
yeah, I was just gonna say lasting contributions to the student, staff, and community. So it's an MSAD policy, so just saying community means the same thing as saying MSAD 11.
I like the idea of having both, if that's the question.
Yeah.
I was like Tony, I didn't realize they were supposed to be the same thing.
Yeah,
that part,
The
like,
first one, I was like, well, it's money, and we touched on the other thing, and then the other one is more specific to.
put in a plaque up or
and stuff.
whatever, yeah, right. Yeah,
okay,
Is it worth?
so, oh, no, go ahead.
I just noticed another, in our policy. The fourth paragraph. The second sentence. I just don't think I've seen it anywhere else, and I'm new to reading the policies, but the superintendent of schools, is the of schools necessary?
that's a common thing, the superintendent of schools, that's my official title.
Yes,
Yeah.
I just, in all of the others we've been reading, I haven't seen it really listed that way. so I
Say
just didn't
that
know
way
consistency.
versus the superintendent,
right.
yeah, I don't know that it matters, it's entirely up to you, if you guys wanna remove of schools. Yeah, I,
Just kind of a
You-
consistency piece.
yeah,
We're removing.
yeah. Yeah, you're right, a lot of times I think it does just say superintendent.
Mhm.
I would say do what
Critical
Tony
things.
says, FFA -1-2.
Mm.
Yeah, is that a
Which would,
okay way to name it? Yeah.
Do you care which one's first?
I was just gonna say, I think our current policy should be 1,
Or just keep it as FFA and then the other one would be 1, right? Is that what you mean? Like ours would be first? Okay.
Okay.
Because
yeah.
it seems like we're adding this new one. We currently have.
We have
FFA,
an FFA, right? Good
so why
point.
rename it?
Yeah, and
Okay.
sometimes they're called, when they're like an extension, it's called E1, so
Oh, yeah.
I might do that.
Because
Yeah.
Okay.
it's also gonna take some editing to.
Yeah, I will
fit to-
edit it, and they have some options, so when it comes to scholarships, you know, I think I wanna speak with Andrea a little bit, and if you're okay with us deciding which option, 1 or 2 would be best. And then I will just make sure that that's included in the proposal that goes to the board. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, then let's move on to GBCC. Employee use of cell phones.
Might be any changes there.
Yeah, I didn't have any there. Good.
Hmm.
Some GBGE. Ooh, I just see editing on GBCC. There is a problem on page 2. Page 2, footer. What happens with a lot of
Oh,
the,
nice, yeah.
what happens with the main school management? I think because, you know, there are different platforms used, and we use Microsoft, I guess, right? So they don't use the headers the way we do. And so, and they don't use footers. So instead, they manually insert main school management at the bottom, it will say page 1 or 2. So you have to go through and delete all of them and reinsert as a header or footer. And I think it's just because different districts use different platforms, right? So that's what happened. I missed one at some point. And so it says page 2 and page 2 twice.
Make a suggestion again on DBGE. In all of the others that we've read through today, there's a number sign. And this policy does not read the same.
Yeah, we go back and forth. I think I've just done a bunch of others and I didn't have the number sign. Do you prefer them with or without?
I don't know if I really have a preference for it, but all of the others that we've read.
Tonight had it.
So.
And you prefer them without. I can see it on your.
So I would, I mean, and I would be on board with that. It's just a matter of,
Why do you
Because
prefer?
everybody says MSAD11.
Yeah.
You don't have to designate that it's a number. MSAD number 11.
Even our buses just say 11, right?
Right.
We don't have the number.
Right.
I will go through and I will remove.
well, it could be just moving forward, you know, that we know. We're limiting, I don't know.
I was working
I
on
mean,
some
our-
policies today and
Our
yeah,
website.
I still don't understand why it's across the state of Maine, there's MSADs and then RSUs.
different time back, the MSADs were created in 1964, or actually, I think in the late 50s they began. And so there was an incentive across the state for school districts to merge. There was a financial incentive and they were called Maine School Administrative Districts for those that merged. And then back in the 2000s, somewhere in there, there was a push to do some additional consolidation, and they were called regional school units, right, versus MSADs. And so that's where you get the RSUs. And so across the state, you now have those who consolidated were called regional school units. Some didn't consolidate or change at all, so they were stayed as MSADs. The state calls us both RSU and MSAD. I don't know why they call us both, because we didn't do anything, so we're MSAD in my mind. Then you had school unions before where you have separate towns, right? And
That was the
they
90s, right?
share in a superintendent, but they operate independently. Those were called unions. Now they're called AOSs, which is an alternative organizational structure.
Mhm.
So just a little history, that's the
And that's
story.
fine, cause we joke in Rhode Island all the time that, you know, the city of Central Falls is like 1 square mile, but it's got its own school district and
Yeah.
it's insane. Whereas here, there's, you know, I tell people back home, there's 4 towns in my school district, and yet my high school still has more people than this high school does.
Yeah.
And I also thought I came from a small town of 20-something thousand until I moved around the country. So,
Yeah.
Okay, I want to keep an
Yeah.
eye. I know I need to leave at 6. Okay, so GB, was that the only thing for GB? All right, so then GBI, GBI would be, yeah, I'll go through and correct those. Staff gifts and solicitation. Is that still fine? Do you want to change the $25, keep it as is?
Right,
I'd keep it as is.
Yeah,
yeah, that still seems nominal.
Yeah,
And
yeah. Okay. GCOA, supervision and evaluation of professional staff.
I was gonna say, is there, I don't need my glasses for this one.
Right.
Yeah, the font is larger, I'm not sure. Let me write that down so I can take a look at it. GCOA, look at font.
so we removed rule chapter 180.
That was from the DOE. Because I don't know, I would have to go back, Jack, and take a look at that. We've removed the section that says in accordance with the main educator effectiveness law because it dated back to 1516, right? It's kind of obsolete. But let me just go back and double check because the law still stands, right?
I'm checking.
Yeah.
Mm,
Right, if the loss,
I don't know if they I wouldn't know if they rescinded their chapter law, their rule chapter.
you need to remove that legal reference, or is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know, okay.
I will have to go back and
Okay.
just double check. Again, I don't remember. That was a couple months ago, so.
Mhm. I
That's a
mean,
good
I
rule.
think we just finally got all the 2023 changes and it's still there, so it didn't go away.
Okay. Yeah, let me double check.
Does it make sense to leave that single sentence?
I don't think so. Because this says we'll develop and pilot.
I don't know if it's referring to any other evaluation and growth system that we use.
No, it's just
No.
for our teachers. So it's already developed, it's already in place. We've been using it for years, so.
So it seems, I would just also include excluding that sentence.
You would also include excluding,
Strike that sentence.
Strike that sentence, strike that last sentence. Say
Yeah.
like,
And
deleting it.
the only thing, I kept that in there
Yeah.
to make it clear that the evaluation system must be approved by the school board. I kept that in intentionally because if there are any changes to that plan, it still requires board approval. So I want it to be
Okay, that was my
clear.
question
could.
before, was did it make sense to leave that single sentence
Yeah.
remaining?
Oh, sorry, I didn't understand that.
Okay.
It does make sense to
Okay.
keep it because the board needs to understand that basically our evaluation school is a policy, right?
Hmm.
So that has to be approved by the board.
If just having it sort of hanging there, could we put it under, could we attach it to the second paragraph? Superintendent shall be responsible for development, implementation, and periodic review of a comprehensive program which shall be adopted by the board. You could almost, I don't know, we could leave it there, but you could also just merge it.
Yep.
Which must be approved and adopted by the board, which shall be approved and
Yeah.
adopted by the board. I don't know, does that makes a lot more work for you?
No,
No?
that's
Okay,
not hard.
all right.
I can do that. Okay. Anything else? All right,
Good on that one. We are at,
we have, yeah, I know, we have 3 more, we have 1 minute. Terry has reviewed these. This is our employee computer and internet use.
School website, staff trainings, and other means selected by superintendent.
Yeah.
Great,
Does that look okay?
I think so.
Right. Yeah, I noticed on a cross-reference that we had student computer use. I'm like, why do I have a student usage
for,
policy cross-reference for employees? So that's why I deleted that. And then the social media is the next one. Is this okay?
So,
Then the last one. Oops, I have R. Whoops, somehow I got R in the wrong place. I got R before. So this is back to employee computer and internet use. These are the rules. So it's just got placed out of order. All set with that? Then the last one is the media release form. Again, it's a form. I don't have any other mechanism at the current time, and we need to make sure that all schools use the exact same document. And having it in policy reminds everyone that this form must be released to parents and returned in order to publish any student information. So I guess I'm gonna contradict myself and say that this form should remain in policy
Until you have a different mechanism.
until I have a different mechanism.
yeah.
Are you all okay with this? We did modify this slightly, so.
Yeah.
Okay,
does it really only say I do not give my kids permission?
Yes, because people just go and start checking. And so we want them to be aware that they are saying, we do not want it.
Right.
So you do not.
For the
expect form
parents who
otherwise.
don't mind.
Don't check it.
Don't submit the form,
Gotcha,
right?
We send them the form, but they don't check that.
gotcha.
Because otherwise, it's a nightmare for the admin assistants to take and calculate on the spreadsheets.
Right.
Let's see. Okay.
so there's no check
I was
here,
gonna say,
it's
there's no
just a
check.
bullet. There is no check, so if I'm receiving
We can get these all online. so that
Okay.
they can
that they can
fill
check it,
out online.
okay.
Okay.
Because if I'm looking at this, I'm gonna do exactly what Jack asked. Okay, there's no check, I do not, I don't mind, so therefore I'm not gonna complete the form,
Yeah,
Right.
just throw it out,
so.
right?
On the top, we could add. I don't wanna make it any more confusing than it already is, you know, we could add a disclaimer that says, you know, if you approve, no need to check.
But there's nothing here to check.
Except for the box.
There's no box.
I had to put a box,
Yeah.
so that it must not have come out. But it will be, when they go online to fill it out, there's going to be a box that they can check, or an X or whatever.
Okay.
So
Right,
it
so
says,
why-
I do not want, and if they do not want, they have to
I just wonder if
check.
it should be named differently.
You wonder what?
I said, I wonder if it should be named differently. It's called a media release form, and so it's really, you're not releasing.
It's a question of an opt-out versus an opt-in.
Yeah.
That's, yeah,
Like a,
we put that at the very top, opt out. And then they would say, or down by where they check, opt out.
Yeah.
That's not a bad idea.
So why don't we do that? Why don't we tweak it, make it an opt-out only, okay?
Yep, and then if it comes back signed and they have an opt-out, we'll know that they approve.
Okay. Okay, I need,
You said when they have not opted out, then you know
They're
they.
still gonna have to sign, because we have to have that, in order to put a child's picture on the internet
Yeah.
or their work, we have to have something signed.
So you have like opt-in, I am okay with the district using my
Because-
child's image in this way, or
I did.
opt-out, I am not okay with it,
you have to check with the school, yeah, I don't know.
something.
And it would have looked a little differently. This is modified a little bit, so it would look a
Hard copy
little.
form seemed pretty straightforward.
So,
Yeah, we'll come back to this one.
yeah, we can bring another version back to you.
Yeah.
I do need then a motion to move forward all of the other policies to the board for first read.
I had one more on here, the overdose prevention program in the packet, was that not on the agenda? All right,
No,
everything else is tracked in the packet except that one, the last one, so
I don't
JLCDE2
I don't even have that one in my packet. Mine ends right here.
at the form.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I have one more.
Wow.
Well,
Well, that's because you're the chair.
Yeah,
Maybe
special.
it's special.
Oh. Yeah.
that's
I
the
don't-
form and then, yeah, no big. We'll come back to it when we do.
Yeah.
Could I make a motion
so-
that we send all of these policies that we have gone over, except that one, to the board?
Second.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor?
Awesome.
Unanimous.
Thank
That was the
you.
right thing, right?
Yes, that's exactly
was
what
it.
we needed you
Okay.
to do. All right, and we're adjourned.
Yes,
Great. Sorry,
no,
my family is waiting for me, so. I need to get
Awesome.
home.
hey, awesome job.